Today we're talking about how you must prepare for your personal injury case in Ontario. These are essential tips for how you must prepare in order to bring the strongest case possible for your personal injury lawsuit. I'm Natalie Gerry, the principal lawyer and founder with Gerry Law. I help injured people get the compensation they deserve for their injury. Let's get into this topic today. To understand the legal system in Ontario, we need to go through a few different factors. So Ontario's legal system in terms of personal injury cases is based on a combination of laws and legal principles. Some of the important laws that are relevant are the Insurance Act, the Occupiers Liability Act, and the Limitations Act. These laws affect your case, so it is important to understand how they apply to you. For example, the Limitations Act typically gives you 2 years from the date that you find out about your injury to start a lawsuit. That being said, with the Limitations Act, there are some exceptions, like for people who are incapacitated according to the law, like maybe in a coma, or for children. So those under 18, the Limitation Act applies differently. There are also special Limitation Act exemptions for actions related to sexual assault. So those are things that are important to know and to speak with your lawyer about. The next important thing to know is to seek immediate medical attention. Getting medical help right away is important not only for your health, but also for your case. Medical records are key evidence in showing the extent of your injuries and the treatment you need because of your injuries. Make sure that all doctors' visits, diagnoses, and treatments are properly documented. It's also essential, one tip is to mention how your injury happened. So if you slipped on ice, bonus points if you can mention where you were when you slipped, because this adds consistency to your story and what you slipped on. So mention to the doctor that you slipped on ice when you were at, say, whatever store. This will add some corroboration and consistency to your case. It also helps to show how serious your injuries are when you do go to see a doctor. And I'm not saying to go to a doctor if you don't need to, but if you are having pain, then it is a very good idea to go to a doctor and get assessed. I have had clients where they tough it out and they are in pain, but they think, oh, I'll just walk it off, it will be fine. They're busy with their lives. They don't want to be bothered to go to the emergency room, but then about 3 days to a week later, they go to the hospital and it turns out that they had a fracture the whole time. Then it creates difficulty for your lawyer, because when you're trying to link what happened to the fall or the accident that we're saying happened somewhere specific, if there's a lag in time, then it makes it more difficult to link those things together, and it opens the door for the defense lawyer to say that it happened because of something else. This is not something that you want. The next thing that is essential to prepare your personal injury case is that you document the incident thoroughly. Good documentation is essential for building a strong case. So after the incident, gather as much evidence as you can. Some evidence that you might consider gathering are photographs and videos. So take pictures of the scene, your injuries, and any visible damage. This is really essential. If you can, get photos of whatever it was that caused your injury. This will be very helpful in your lawsuit, and it is one of those essential things to build a strong personal injury case. Witness statements are also an essential piece to this. So get the contact information and, if possible, statements from anyone who saw what happened to you. The next piece is incident reports. If there's an official report, like a police report or an filed report saying that you were injured, if it is possible, if you're not headed to the hospital right away, then file a report that you are injured. And then also request a copy of that report. So I know it might be difficult in the heat of the moment when you are injured and things are chaotic maybe, but if you can, mention that you would like a copy of that. Also a good idea, when you file an incident report, ask for the person's card, especially if it is at a store or if it's a police officer, ask for their card so that you can later contact them. For example, if you slip and fall in a store and the manager comes over and is helping you up and helping you to, collect your bearings, and that manager, it looks like, is in charge and is kind of investigating, you definitely want to ask them to create an incident report, and you also want to ask for their cards so that you have their name, and so that looking back you can contact them or your lawyer can contact them. The next important thing to know is that you need to notify the right parties. So depending on the type of injury, you might need to notify certain parties within a specific time frame. So for example, if the injury happens on municipal property, you must tell the municipality within 10 days. So this is a really tight timeline, and you need to make sure that you are giving notice to the proper party at the municipality within 10 days. So if there's someone who is present and walking by at the time of your injury who seems like they work for the municipality, like say someone who is clearing snow after you've fallen, you can't just tell them, oh, I fell, and that does not constitute proper notice. So you need to make sure that when you're giving notice, you are telling the right party at the municipality, and you are including all of the elements that you have to include in the notice letter. So they need to know some specific details, and you need to make sure that those are included properly. The next tip is to consult a personal injury lawyer, because a personal injury lawyer will have experience with this type of injury that you've had and with the principles that govern how to give notice and how to gather evidence. The personal injury lawyer can really guide you in the right direction. They can help you to understand your rights, to assess the strength of your case, and to navigate Ontario's legal system. A lawyer can also help you handle negotiations with insurance companies, making sure that you get fair compensation. So I can be contacted at the information below if you want to discuss your particular matter. The consultation is always free, just to discuss your options and whether it's worth pursuing a case. The next tip is that you want to make sure that you are preserving evidence. So keeping evidence is key for proving your case. You want to make sure that you are keeping your medical records. So save all your medical records, including treatment plans, prescriptions, and receipts for medical expenses that you pay out of pocket. In some cases, the Ontario government will also be able to recover their expenses that they spent on your care because of the defendant's negligence. So if you get medical care, then OHIP, the Ministry of Health, may also have a claim, and that would be pursued separately, but your lawyer would be pursuing that as well as part of your claim. You also want to make sure that you keep your employment records for any time that you miss from work. So any records that show that your salary was not paid or that you were not able to earn income, you want to provide at least 3 to 5 years before the accident happened, so that you can show this is what you were earning, and then show that there was a gap in your earnings and that you missed time from work because of the accident. This will help to prove that you did lose wages and you're entitled to recover those because of the accident. It's also a good idea to keep personal journals. So to keep a journal of your recovery, it's good to keep a journal of your pain levels, your emotional distress, and any limitations that you face with your daily activities. This can help later after the fact to keep a record, and so that you can remember better looking back what your injuries were, what you were feeling day to day, because after the fact it's hard to remember every single day the level of pain that you had. So it is a good idea to record this. The other thing that you want to make sure is that you are keeping any receipts related to your injury. All of this will be claimable in the lawsuit. You want to make sure that any out-of-pocket bills, like for the ambulance, any physiotherapy that's not covered, you want to make sure that you are keeping receipts for all of that, and you can provide that to your lawyer or to the insurance company to show that you have sustained a loss in that regard. The next thing to know about a personal injury action is about general damages. So this is compensation for pain and suffering, loss of enjoyment of life, and emotional distress. So for example, if a serious injury prevents you from working or doing things that you enjoy, make sure that you document these changes, because this can support your claim for general damages, which is that pain and suffering, the monetary compensation that the court would award you because of the pain and suffering that you've you've gone through. The next thing to know is to be prepared for settlement or trial. So most personal injury cases in Ontario are settled before reaching trial. It's still important though to be prepared for both, for trial as well as a settlement, and the better prepared you are to go to trial, the more likely you are to receive a decent settlement on your file. Your lawyer will help to build the strong case and gather the evidence that you need. If you're doing it yourself, you should also be gathering the evidence, as I mentioned here, and presenting it in a cogent way so that the insurance company understands what your losses are and what compensation you are seeking. Another thing to be aware of is the need sometimes for expert opinions. Sometimes experts are required in terms of liability, so showing that there was negligence, an expert can give an opinion. Sometimes it's an engineer who would say that something was not properly designed and that's what caused your injury. Sometimes it might be an expert in keeping a property safe, so something to do with whether or not there was a hazard on the property could be helpful to proving your case. Also, in terms of damages, so this is the extent of your injuries, a medical expert could be helpful to prove that aspect of your case. So this is another thing to keep in mind. Sometimes even an accident reconstruction specialist could be helpful to back up your claim and provide that evidence that you need to prove your claim. So overall, preparing a personal injury case in Ontario requires careful attention to detail. It requires collecting evidence and usually working with a lawyer. If you plan to do it yourself, you can do that. Just gather that evidence and make sure that you're presenting a really careful case to the insurance company so they know that you're serious and that you are organized. By following the steps that I've outlined, you can ensure that you're fully prepared for a successful outcome, and whether your case settles out of court or goes to trial, being well prepared is an extremely important aspect of presenting your lawsuit. If you want to discuss your case further, I can be contacted at the information below.